Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Minna Crichton, and today I will be mainly focusing on the exhibit legal documentation that was submitted as part of evidence for my case in regards to my medical records. So this medical evidence I'll be focusing on would be a mental health assessment that had taken place in July 2009. So I will be focusing mainly on the circumstances before and leading up to the appointment and after the fact issues. Yeah, because this report is actually, this documentation contains a lot of evidence on this actual documentation, and a lot of the issues that I will be disclosing, no one would ever know the proper interpretation of it unless the person who's the report being made of is, interpret it to their own belief of what actually happened at this point of time. So what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to get you to understand, and I think you may know by now, how serious it is and vital it is that you take responsibility of your own personal profile. Keeping in mind, if anything should happen to you, the first thing the investigators are going to look at is your personal profile. So I will be basically going through the issues that were highlighted in my legal documentations for the court, but I will be talking about what happened at this point of time, because I was there, nobody else, just me and those who were witnesses in my environment at this time. So at this time, my background and status is I'm a single mum. I'm a professional single woman, and I come from a very professional occupation, and the kind of people that I associate with at this point in time were those in prominent caliber. So there's a lot of things that come around in that territory, and that kind of set of circumstance, the professional environment, and the mindset is completely different, to if you weren't involved in the kind of work that I was committed to at that time. Okay, I'm a routine person. I associated with my local church as a member, and because I grew up in this church, but it was still part of my life because a lot of the people in this place, they were people I grew up with. So I considered them as my private space, or my private life at this point in time. Now, I'm also a single parent to 3 children, and I'm physically active and going to the gym, my local gym at this time, and I would go to the spin classes every morning, most mornings, and then if I don't, I'll go swimming at lunchtime, and I'll go swimming in the evening. Sometimes, depending what mood I'm in, I'll go both. Now, before I did the gym, as a single parent, exercise is something I've always loved and enjoyed to do. Enjoyed doing, but there was a point of time I couldn't afford the gym, so I used to walk early hours in the morning from about 5:30 to, between 4:45 onwards, just to fit in at least 30 to 45 minute walk, brisk power walk. Or, if I got felt good, I'll maybe run, but I'm not really a runner. I prefer power walking. But I used to do that nearly every day as part of my routine. But then as time moved on, I was able to afford the gym, but then I started getting issues with criminal harassment, and criminal harassment comes in many forms, but the kind that I'm going through at this time was people following me. Some people call it stalking, but in the court of law it's called criminal harassment. Because of that, it's common sense, you're going to take safety measures to protect yourself. So I decided to join the gym. So that's what I did. I went to the gym regularly instead of doing the walks by myself early hours in the morning. But I used to do that for years for as long as I can remember. So at this point of time, financially, I was in a good space financially. I was in good credit. I had a really expensive car that had almost been paid off. So that's how I had good cars. I would pay off my cars, and I had a good car. I was in a really good space financially, and I had other goals that I wanted to do for myself. Now, I've always not been in good credit. Rewinding a little bit further, when my children were younger, with my ex, children's father at that time, I ended up getting into debt because we broke up on and off. It was a pretty rough time for myself and my children, but because of the split, I had taken on the full responsibility of the full care of my kids plus the bills. So, but because I had taken on all these extra bills, I ended up being in credit because of that. At that time, the children's father had nothing to do with helping out financially. In fact, he's never been able to support us financially. So because of that situation at that time, I got into a bad credit, but I worked myself really hard when I was single with the kids and stuff, and I got myself out of that and got back into good credit again. But all that took time. So at this point in time, financially, I'd say I was in a good space. Personally, I was getting a really good income from my livelihood, my occupation. And other things that were happening to me around this time, I was doing a court case. I had taken one of my landlord agency to court for breaches. At this point in time, I just sort of kind of got involved in a hip hop group because of my son. I wanted to get involved in his life, so I got involved in that, and it was just a sort of kind of like the start off. So all this took place at this time. Now, at this time also, I started having problems with a bank, and the problem got quite bad, and yeah, but I'm just saying these are the things that were happening to me at this time. What was actually happening was that the people I was speaking to was giving me misleading information, or they would lie, or they would yeah, basically I just, there was really bad suspicion that I felt someone was using my bank account to keep track of my activities or passing on information to people within my private life of what I was doing. So I felt there was suspicious activities going on with my bank account. And then I had issues where someone was tampering with my bills and altering my direct debits, because I've always done direct debits system, so then I don't have to worry about it, but somebody kept altering the dates and causing a bit of issue there for myself. So I ended up putting complaints about that problem in writing. That's all I could do when these sort of things happen. But all this sort of kind of took place all around this point of time. Leading up to this assessment. Now, at this time also I was having workplace bullying, where I had the criminal harassment issue. Then I had the hacking into the computer at work problem, where I had felt somebody was doing suspicious activity in my computer, or having, just let's just say my suspicion, to this day, something, I know that without a shadow of doubt at that time all these things were happening. And then I was going through issues where people would, like, I'd be lured away from my desk, and then someone would go into my computer and change the setting of my computer, because usually I do the setting so then, my computer locks when I walk away from my desk within 5 minutes or less, for the very reason so nobody can hack in, and you're warned about these kind of things at work. But I used to find somebody had gotten into my computer and change it to 1 hour, so which means I could be away from my desk and my computer is up, for anyone to access it. So I was having all that happening at all this time around leading up to this incident. But I can confirm in my own words that mentally, physically and spiritually, I was in excellent condition, and my personality also is that I am a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a very forward person. I mind my own business, and I wasn't on any medication whatsoever. In fact, my doctors can confirm that I always complain about taking tablets, because I hate drugs. I hate taking any kind of medication and be dependent on it. The reason for that is because I don't like anything that's not natural in me. So I've always had that struggle with, taking tablets full on, till it's finished. I probably only would take it if, say, if I had a headache, I'll take Panadol, or if, I got bronchitis, something like that, then for that chest infection, then I'd take it, but then I never really finish it. But that's just me, but I can confirm at this point in time I wasn't on any medication whatsoever. Okay, the issues to do with the report referred to, I had drafted up a affidavit, and I referred the affidavit to the report, And there were, you know, a few things in that report that really upset me when I pulled it out. But I didn't pull out the report. I didn't ask for a disclosure of my file until 2010, when I wanted to put a case together, because I needed help with, you know, what I was going through. I was being outnumbered, and I didn't feel safe. And I have felt I was in a very serious, dangerous, hostile situation at this time. So the affidavit was drafted up, but it was basically the person that I was complaining about as a key person was a manager that had been my manager since 2004, but we had a working relationship about it. You know, we had a working relationship problem. Everybody knew about it. It was no secret in the office. So the affidavit was referring to her as the key person or the key problem in the situation, only because I had other evidence to support my other complaints. So I kind of like put everything together in one complaint. But there were issues that I wanted to confirm about the report, the mental health assessment report, and I will quote some of the things that was said in the report, and then I will interpret, you know, how I took it when I found out what was on this report. Okay, when I pulled out the report and I read it, and I read a quote there, it said, "Seems paranoid." I was really shocked when I read this. I was upset and I was mad because, one, I had no idea why I was going for the appointment at the time I was asked to go. My manager did not give me anything in writing or anything verbally, any sufficient ground reason to say why they were referring me. So I was really, really, really upset when I'd read this, because, you know, that alone is, you know, what these doctors have written. You know, it speaks volume when somebody who doesn't know you would interpret that as like I've got a mental health issue mentally, which I don't. So I was really, really, really upset about all this. And at the time when my manager approached me at my desk and said, "Look, hey, we're going to refer you for a mental health assessment." And I said, "What? Why?" Like, I was kind of like stunned that she had even made the suggestion, because I didn't expect it. And I didn't know why. And all I thought was, I put one and two together, that she was complaining, that my complaints, they had interpreted it as something was wrong with me. So instead of solving the issue and looking at ways to, you know, make things better for myself, they wanted to create even more wrong evidence. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was upset about it. I did ring somebody I knew really well about it, and in fact I told a few people about this appointment, and I was really upset that she had asked me to go, and then she said, "Look, if you don't go, then I'm going to, that my employer can force me to go." Well, I had no choice really, because it was my livelihood. And I knew there was nothing wrong with me, and I thought, okay, then I'll go and just prove to them that there was nothing wrong with me. And, so I went. And so I went to this meeting. I met these two European women whom I have never met in my life. I had a 30 to 45 minute session with them. And I can still remember what we talked about. I talked about the bullying, the criminal harassment. and stuff like that, and then I left. Now, the other thing that really upset me too about this report is another quote. It's that on the report it said sending veiled threats to workers and about private issues and demanding apologies. At this point of time, before this actual incident, I had actually was complaining, like I actually sought a union advice because it was workplace bullying I was subject to. And I had a support person who advised me to put, the complaints in writing like I did. And then he told me to send them out, and that's what happened. At the advice of a union delegate, I did what he did. But this manager has interpreted it as a threat. But I wasn't making any threats. I was trying to, I was attacking the issue up front. I was basically, like wanting it to stop. I didn't know what to do about it. And at the advice of my union support at that time, he helped me. And so now this comment upset me, and it also speaks volume in the fact that I never told this to these two ladies whom I had met and spoken to at the assessment. So somebody else has told this information to them and they've written it down, but that did not come out from me. I didn't tell them that. Why would I? Why would I tell them? So I didn't. So this report clearly indicates that somebody else's thoughts have gone into this report. But I didn't tell these women at the session, at the assessment that I had at that time. So the other thing with this comment, it also confirms of the people that are suspects in my case. There were 3 people whom I had made complaints about because they were undermining my work. They were turning people against me, and an alliance was getting built up in the office. So that's what happened. I ended up being outnumbered and ended up being in an unsafe environment. But that is what happened at this time when I sent out these letters. But in saying that, these 3 colleagues were still there. In fact, they were the ones who were involved in putting a complaint against me, and then they railroaded me out. But these people didn't leave the crime scene. They made me work in that condition, and it was really bad condition. So that's what happened. But these 3 people, nothing happened. They were still working with me or working in the same building as me, and they were still, behind the setup and the abuse with all the others that by this time had joined together. So even though that comment seemed so small, there was a lot of evidence in just that comment. The other thing that we need to know is that this report also will confirm that my whole circumstance has been premeditated and historically. Now, the other thing that I found in the report that upset me was that my previous possible name was my married name. Okay, so this is dated in 2009, this report. I had a name change in 2006 from my married name because I divorced. At the same time, I made a name change and I went back to my maiden name. but that was from 2006. So everything, as soon as you have a name change, you change all those details on your bank accounts, on your work profile, which I did consistently. But I was having problems. Somebody kept changing it back to my maiden name or my married name. Okay, yeah, I had problems where people kept changing my profile, changing my name back to my married name. Yeah, somebody within my occupation kept changing my name, so I had to reapply several times to get them to change it back to my maiden name. So the other thing, I had the same problem also with the banks, even though I had illegally gone in and officially changed it, showing all my proper ID and all the rest of it. The other thing I was having problems at this time was that people kept would do a spelling mistake or spell my name wrong, but it happened more than once. And the banks did this, and so did some other people. And I kept having this problem on and off, and that's why I ended up putting a complaint, because somebody kept altering my name. And it's so important that this kind of information is correct in any of your profile that you are a client to. But in saying that, this little comment that my previous possible name of, and then my married name at that time, but I was actually Minna Crichton at this point of time. This is confirmation that something's not right. I mean, it's on my record. That's something my employer should know. So I don't know where the doctors got this information from, but they've put that in there. And it wasn't even discussed in the assessment. And I can confirm that the manager that I had written this affidavit and complained about has been my manager since 2004 till 2007 and 8. But then she was still working in the same section with me, and I'm not putting the blame all on one person, but I'm just saying by this time the alliance had gotten so strong and so dangerous for myself. I was outnumbered, and then I ended up just going through terrible working conditions. Okay, so the next one that I had an issue with, was a comment of, I will read it, like if I was in court, I'd have to say it as what it is on the report. But the report said, comment, childhood, sexual abuse, rape, violent marriage, and violent adopted father. I was particularly upset because I had read the word rape. I never spoke to these women about anything along those lines. So they've put that down themselves. And I can confirm that in the court of law today. But I would class that as fraudulent information. In fact, this whole report has ruined my reputation. So it is definitely fraud. So a lot of the comments that have been made or I've quoted in this report were not on my own words. A lot of them also confirms that they were other people's words, whoever they spoke to. Obviously they must have done some kind of investigation or spoken to someone else. But a lot of the comments on this report has not been from the one-on-one assessment that we had. And just to confirm, they did get back to my employer and let them know that there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. Okay, so this report definitely confirms premeditated crimes that followed. So that's why this evidence is really, really, really important, and it is an exhibit. but it will definitely, this report confirms future premeditated abuse and cyberbullying that was happening to me and being used for a pecuniary advantage that took place historically to this day. Okay, on this report, it also confirms that I had an EAP, which is a counsellor. And I had this counsellor from 2003 onwards. So she was well aware of all my complaints that I was having within the workplace. I also, there was another quotation that I felt was really, really important, and to confirm that, you know, that there was absolutely nothing wrong with me, was that these nurses obviously contacted my family GP, but she was quite shocked. She was surprised to hear of the referral to MHS, and that's what's written in there. At least they've got something right. But that is true, because when I spoke to my doctor about it, she was actually shocked, and you know, she couldn't understand why they were referring me. And I was the same too. I was quite stunned. But you know, I exercised my Bill of Rights, and I said no, I didn't want to go because I knew there was nothing wrong with me. But you know, I was so worried about what they were telling me to do. Even at the time when they told me to do, I thought that wasn't right. That was a wrong move of my employer to do that to me. But I knew I had to protect myself, because this assessment could always backfire. But you know, I know the law the way I do, and I was just taking responsibility for my own profile and my own reputation. And so but the summary of this report, in my own words, it confirms workplace bullying, it confirms fraud information entered, it also identifies key issues surrounding the subject's circumstance, meaning myself at that point of time, and it's got the names and the suspects of those in public office. So you know, that's pretty bad what happened. And also, I can confirm at this point of time that I was not on any medication, as I've already mentioned, for anything mentally at this point of time. So the report and the assessment also revealed that there was nothing wrong with me, and that was confirmed by my employer when they got back to me. And I mean, I already knew there was nothing wrong with me, but in saying that, they may have like wanted just to you know, what I mean is, just because, you know, they've appear to be, the appointment may have seemed quite innocent at that point of time to those who referred me, but it's done major damage to my reputation and my medical records. So you can see for yourself why I was really, really upset at this point of time when I pulled out my profile, and I was basically absolutely shocked at what I was reading. But in saying that, at the civil case, these two doctors, I thought at the time were doctors, were named as 2 out of the 6 doctors that I had pursued a civil case against. Now, on the 21st of September 2018, I think it's the 16th or the 17th, 21st September, I had a brief hearing before the High Court, at the High Court with the judge, and it was confirmed in this hearing that the counsel's client was actually a nurse and not a doctor. The laws here, they have specific people who are only allowed to do mental health assessments on people. So it was revealed at